Cosine of the tangent inverse of x over 3. So this one's a little more special because we do not know if x over 3 is positive or negative, meaning that we don't really know what quadrant we really are in, but we can narrow it down. Tangent inverse returns in what quadrants? 1 and 4. So I technically have to draw two triangles here. As it's going to turn out, it's not going to matter. So if we call this angle beta, then beta could be here or beta could be here. In reference to beta, where do I put the x? And where do I put the 3? Adjacent. Which I only need to write one. So according to Pythagoras, if you would figure out that hypotenuse, if you notice it's going to be the same hypotenuse for both pictures. Would anyone like to provide a hypotenuse? Very good. You should get the square root of x squared plus 9. Do not write that as x plus 3. That's illegal. So even though we do not know exactly what quadrant we are in, when we go to find the cosine of the tangent inverse of x over 3, we're going to get the same value whether in quadrant 1 or quadrant 4 because cosine is the same value in quadrants 1 and quadrant 4. So looking at either triangle, what is the cosine of beta? Yeah. You could rationalize that if you want. If you did, you would get 3 square roots of x squared plus 9 over x squared plus 9. But that's all you can do. All right. Last up, part H. 1/2 is a number that is on the unit circle. However, 5/13, is that 5/13? Is not. But before we even do this, what format does this have? Not a double angle. Not a half angle. Yeah. That was U, and that's V. Then this is the format cosine U plus V. Some formula for cosine? Sure. What is cosine of U plus V without looking? Because everyone should have this memorized by now. Very good. It's the cosine of U, cosine of V. So we're going to use that formula. Wherever you see a U, you're going to put sine inverse of 1/2. Wherever you see a V, you're going to put cosine inverse of 5/13. Doing so, we're going to have the cosine of the sine inverse of 1/2 times the cosine of the cosine inverse of 5/13 minus the sine of the sine inverse of 1/2 times the sine of the cosine inverse of 5/13. Well, here's the deal. Two of them are very nice. Which two? Yeah, the cosine of cosine inverse of 5/13. Highlighter! That one's nice. What is the cosine of cosine inverse of 5/13? Why do they cancel? You're not multiplying here. All right. So Shelley, why do they cancel? Someone else, why do they cancel? Because we did one where they didn't cancel. What is the domain of cosine inverse? No. No. Negative 1 to 1. Is 5/13 between negative 1 and 1? Class? Yes. That's why they cancel. The number that we're evaluating is between negative 1 and 1. That's why they cancel. Okay, now use the same logic here. Minus, move. This guy also simplifies nicely. What's the domain of sine inverse? Repeat your answer. Negative 1 to 1 is 1/2 between negative 1 and 1. So what happens to the sine and the sine inverse? They cancel. Oh, I have to move my highlighter though. I said, Hooray, we're halfway done. But now we have to figure out the cosine of sine inverse of 1/2 and the sine of cosine inverse of 5/13. All right, Humsley, what's the cosine of sine inverse of 1/2? Well, sine inverse returns from negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. So the sine of what angle between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2 is 1/2? The sine of what angle between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2 is 1/2? 30 radians? 30 degrees. So the sine inverse of 1/2 is 30 degrees. So what's the cosine of 30 degrees? Now say your answer. Square root 3 over 2. Good. And now to do the sine of cosine inverse of 5/13, since 5/13 is not on the unit circle, what should we do? Draw a picture. Where are we going to draw a picture? What quadrant? Why? 2 reasons why we're going to draw it in quadrant 1. And so, that doesn't matter. Cosine inverse returns in what quadrants? 1 and 2. And since the number in question is positive, we go with quadrant. There you go. We go with quadrant 1. Oh, all this theory. So this would be a V in here. So in reference to the V, where do I put the 5? What's the real name, guys? Adjacent. Where do we put the 13? Hypotenuse. So what goes opposite of V? So since we called V the cosine inverse of 5/13, what's the sine of V? 12/13. Class, what's the square root of 3 times 5? Minus 1 times 12, class. 2 people. All over 2 times 13. 26. Good job.